Well, an amazing result. I was up all night working on this, and it is phenomenal. So basically, I suppose I'll call it a high Z resonator. Okay, intended for extremely high impedance single wire transmission lines and antennas. It's an extremely complicated little system, as you can see by looking at these inductors. And I've got the variable capacitor. So at the moment, all I'll say is that this is the first coil, and it performs a number of functions. It's a octafilar coil. Is it octa? No, pentafilar, 5 pentafilar coil. And it's extremely complicated, but it also captures what would be returning to ground and takes the inversion of that and adds it back to the forward. Okay, this is extremely complicated inductor also. And this one consists of 6 small bifilar pancake coils, but really there's sort of 2 sets of coils. So let's say we've got 1 coil, 2 coil, 3 coil and out to between these 2. But the other coils between the 3, they're all linked together infinitely, okay? So I take a tap from the infinite loop and go through the capacitor and feed back to the active input, okay? It's extremely complicated, but my God. It's definitely a high Q, high Z HF resonator. Well, I'm about to go down the shops anyway, so I'll take a video when I'm down there and see how I'm receiving mobile in the local area, like 7 minutes drive away. So it's tuned up without the need for an external ATU, and I'll do this test at 3 watts, so that's 30% on the RF power. Okay, so I'll send a beacon. Oops, hang on, had the correct mode there, Epoch. Okay. There you go. All right. This now has a single wire feed. This part will radiate because it's in the air, and it's actually a iron wire, a magnetized iron wire. You can probably see it's tickling the lights, but I'm glad it's not really going hell for leather. And as you can see, it's not really hammering that meter, which is great, okay? I magnetized the wire by having it rolled in a loop, like a ring, and then winding around that loop and then applying DC current over it a number of times. So the line itself now has a north and south pole at each end, okay? So what I'll do very quickly before I head down, one sec, see you soon girls, I won't be long. I have to say that or they think they're going for a walk. So I'll just run down into the garden and come near the antenna wire. So it's a bit bright out here, but you can see now, so that's where the antenna wire goes up the tree. You can see that's hot as anything, okay? And but you can see that the wire that's just lying across the ground, that bit that's off the ground is hot. But if I lay it fully flat on the ground, it's nothing comes off it. So, all right, let's give this a go. I'll go down the street. I'll be monitoring using the HF Tesla Mobile. Well, I'm in the car, and what I'll do very quickly is I'll jump in and I'll show you the NVIS conditions from the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology Space Weather Services. So in my region there, it's that greyish blue. So for NVIS, wonderful, 7 megahertz. So at least it's doable. And I'll also jump in and show you the hourly HAP chart. So for Australasia here, so this is centered on my location. So anywhere within the brown region, I should expect to be able to get well on 6 megahertz, you see, and the darker green on 8 megahertz, and the lighter green on 10 megahertz. And notice as it gets further out, like up here in northern Queensland, we've got that really dark red, okay? So that's 20 megahertz. And these charts are fantastic because it shows you how the propagation's working. Because if you notice out to the top right there, we've got the dark red. But further out again, the dark red. So it's showing you the propagation angles of refraction and the likely next hop, okay? And there's a global version too. So, yeah, off I go. Let's see how this goes. I can't record while I'm driving, but I'll stop every now and then. Well, I've just travelled ahead in time in my wonderful time machine. I'm about 5 kilometres from home now, and that's the signal received, the 3-watt signal from that experiment at the moment, locally, okay? Well, I'm still in the village, got some nice healthy shopping, and obviously still receiving the signal quite well here, but also, although conditions haven't shifted up enough to be good for getting into VK5, it is actually just sort of noticeable over there too, 3 watts. Now the band's being hammered with that spread spectrum HF noise thing, but there you go, it is actually getting across there. So if that noise thing was to switch off, which I'll show you, you can see these pulses going right across the band, but at the very bottom of the AM broadcast band is spared. It happens a lot, but you'd sort of be forgiven for not realizing it's there when you come in on a certain specific part of the spectrum like this, and especially when the S meter shows so low, you assume that there's not much noise, but it seems like it's tricking the system. But even so, yeah, there you go. If that thing was switched off, this would be up, but a bit later on, it'll actually come up anyway. It will improve, because what I've noticed is whenever the, oh, that's the HAP chart. One second, I'll go to the ionospheric map. Where are we? Is this it? I keep grabbing the same one. Oh no, hang on. Alright, well, we'll look at the HAP chart first, and you can see, so the region that I'm targeting is probably still in the light green, so it's probably more optimized for 10 megahertz. But if I just jump into the ionospheric map for MVIS like I did earlier, just in case it's updated. So yeah, so my region's still in that sort of greyish blue, right? And the other region's up higher, see, at 8. So, but my region in the blue is 7. Now, whenever my MVS region is about 7 megahertz, I don't get as far as well. When my NVIS drops, then 7 megahertz is better afar. But just thought I'd share that. It's doing quite well. I mean, it's there anyway, 3 watts in noisy conditions. Cool. Okay, this is insane. This is a 40 meter band, probably about nearly 10 minutes to 6 p.m. I'm transmitting in my location near Melbourne. This is receiving on I'm sending 500 milliwatts, and this is receiving in South Australia 500 milliwatts, and the conditions are quite noisy, right? And I'll just show this as well. So I'll try to get this to focus. It's a terrible camera. So it's at 5%, and of course its maximum power is 10 watts. So it's 500 milliwatt on my new system. Now, I've been a busy boy. Okay, I'll just close that and go to camera mode. Oops, hang on. The stupid thing won't go to camera. Sorry about that. So, I've been busy. I've come up with a new system for, basically, I'm not sure what to call it, but I suppose a high Z, high Q resonator system that feeds a single wire as the transmission line that goes out to electric fence tape, across the garden a bit, and then up a tree. So the idea behind the system is obviously to run a high Z single wire. So in other words, a wire that's presenting close to maximum reflected power from our normal way of looking at it. So the concept is that we tend to look at currents. So if you look at it from a current perspective, which of course is moving charge in one direction, creating a rotating magnetic field around the direction of its transiting, the idea is that I'm sending at the same magnitude of current as I've got coming back the other way. So the currents in the classic way of looking at them are cancelled out at resonance, because currents coming this way create one rotation and going the other way create the other rotation. If they're going both ways, there's no rotation. So that means that we're left only with the electric field lines along the axis of the conductor in the change, it's changing in both directions. But of course the conductor is changing its electric field potential with respect to its surroundings at radio frequency. Now at this point here, it's not radiating much. Like you can see on my detector there, I have to really get super close. Hang on, actually there's nothing showing, but you can see a slight tickle there. But as it goes across the garden, once it starts to go up the tree, well then, even on that element, there are no rotating magnetic fields being created on the element, because there's the same amount of current running up as there is down from a classic way of looking at it. But because the element is changing its potential at radio frequency with respect to the ground, then of course, if we imagine the electric field lines of potential that we draw from that vertical element down to ground, and the antenna element is changing its potential at radio frequency, then if you imagine any point along those field lines, those lines are changing in their magnitude. So, and if you follow the crest of one of those changes, that's what we would call a moving charge. So along those field lines down from the antenna to the ground, those moving charges create a rotating magnetic field, and hence we have the end result of a transverse electromagnetic wave. So although I'm actually using a longitudinal magnetodielectric system, I get a transverse electromagnetic wave result. And now this system is absolutely mind-bogglingly brilliant, if I may say so myself, okay? So although at the moment I've got a magnetic tuner on, it's not needed, I was just experimenting with that. I can tune just from the capacitor. And so I've got my initial coil here, where I come in, and now this is extremely complicated. That's a pentafilar coil, okay, 5 conductors. I'm not even going to try to explain it, but it is brilliant. But this on its own does a good job at getting the reflected waves and recombining and adding them back to the forward waves, okay? It then goes to this insane, I wish I had a better camera. I really wish I had a better camera. Insane coil arrangement. Now, as you can probably see, there are 6 small bifilar pancake coils all sharing the same core. But it's even weirder, okay? So, because there's 6, so you got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's look at it like 2 triangles. We've got 1, 2, 3, and we've got 1, 2, 3. We've got 2 sets of coils. I'll try and track it. I come in on this one. It's 3 turns or whatever it is, and then it jumps across, skips this one to the next one. and then it jumps across and skips this one and goes to the final one, which then goes out to the output wire. But the output wire also has a left-right inductor system of pancake coils that allow any of the rotating magnetic field buffering to go sideways either way. They lead to nothing, okay? But they make a big difference. Now, there's another 3 coils on here that are not connected through that through path. And those 3 are connected to each other in an infinite arrangement, okay? Now, the capacitor, the shunt capacitance, is bridging the ground on the input side, the reference, across to a particular tap on the infinite arrangement, okay? But I also have, it's so complicated, it took me ages to nut it out. That's right, but also I have a different tap on the same, actually on the driven side of, I think it's the driven side, yeah, on the driven side of the intense looking coil that goes back to the active input. And it's in phase, and it adds back in phase with the new incoming signal. So this actually, provided it's being run in an infinite impedance sense, keeps adding back, okay? And so, look, it's not over unity, it's not creating more power because of how we define power, but it is increasing the energy state, because I'm sending forward and getting a signal coming back at the same time as me sending forward. So it's cancelling what we would call currents. We've got a longitudinal wave in the E field along the conductor. So every reflection is being added back and used again. And it is mind-blowing. Now, let's go back to the SDR. So 500 milliwatts, and I'll show you the conditions in a second. I should actually also grab the RF detector. My God, there you go. I am not kidding you. 500 milliwatts. That is impressive. So that resonator is astounding. Now, I suppose just to be legit here, I'll show you again. Haven't stopped anything. I'll zoom in. It's, yeah, 5% of a 10 watt system. Well, would be 10 watt if I hadn't damaged it. Now, I'll quickly run out. I'll do this real time so you know I'm not fiddling. And I've left my detector in the car, so here we go. I'm never very well planned with videos because I'm not really a YouTuber. I'm not really a content creator. I'm a mad experimenter that's just sharing some of my stuff. Alright, forgive the mess. Detector. Here we go. So yeah, this looks strange, but it's designed just especially to detect in the direction of the E field vectors, which is unlike what we normally do. So let's see. Now it is only 500 milliwatt, but you can see that it's driving this field strength meter, okay? The transmission line, I mean this part's being driven too, but the transmission line is literally the antenna, because as you see here, it is above ground, but it's starting to couple with the plants and stuff, but it's not being wasted, and the inverse square law doesn't apply because I'm not working with conduction currents. This will drive because it's quite high, because I'm in line with the E fields that are pointing out around it. Now, if we did it in a classic sense and I did it as a parallel feed line, I completely undo this working principle, because I'm driving all of the E vectors back to the return path. This is a non-return system. It's longitudinal, shunting back and forth in a way on the one conductor, but the back and forth is simultaneous, so not back and then forth like a normal antenna. It's both directions simultaneously. So, so there is no rotation of the magnetic field. But the reason it sends a signal was when that wire goes up the tree, it's changing potential with respect to the ground. The changing or moving charges traveling down to ground, in other words, following the electric field lines, those changes create the rotating magnetic fields. So 7.3, thanks for watching. And this is just amazing, isn't it? Look at that. Like 500 milliwatt. And she's getting out into VK5 beautifully on a single wire. Now, I'll just zoom out, show the rest of the band. So it's pretty well up there really. I'll change the waterfall now, it is a bit intense. I'll drop the ceiling down more. So of course there's a lot of big signals out there, the band is noisy. But this is 500 milliwatt. 7.3, and thanks for watching.